For a while now, I've noticed this weird pattern in my life. The more desperate I am for something, the less likely I am to get it. The less I care about something, the more likely I am to get it. And this has been a thing in so many different areas of my life. The more desperate I've been for happiness, the less happy I've been. The more I try desperately to attract certain relationships, the less people I seem to vibe with. But as soon as I stop caring, as soon as I let go of attachment, it's like all those things start to work out. It really resembles a Chinese finger trap. The more effort you put into pulling your finger out of this trap, the more stuck you get. As soon as you let go of that effort and that struggle, you're freed. So why does desperate energy create bad results? Here are a few theories. Number one, when you have desperate energy, you overreact to your failures and your bad experiences. And this links with ironic processing theory, which was created by Harvard professor Daniel Wegner. Daniel found that when people would try to control their thoughts and their feelings, there was this ironic rebound effect. Basically, it would backfire. And you've definitely experienced this when you've been going to sleep and your head's been full of thoughts and you've tried to tell yourself to stop thinking. It's like your brain just keeps on churning out more thoughts than you've ever had. Daniel even linked this back to the occult movement, where they'd use those handheld pendulums. He noted that an essential part of those pendulums moving was the person holding them desperately not wanting to move them. He also found that this ironic effect gets worse with stress. And his reasoning for the rebound effect was that the more that we try to suppress a thought or a feeling, the more that we almost send out a monitor that goes looking for those thoughts and feelings. Melbourne social psychologists found something similar around people who are desperate for happiness. People that are so desperate to be happy have a different reaction to their negative thoughts and feelings. They're way more attentive to them, they ruminate on them much more, they feel worse about them in general, and they just take them more seriously than people who weren't desperate to achieve happiness. Similarly, if you feel desperate to achieve a certain goal, you feel pressure to achieve a certain goal, you're going to overreact to your negative experience. And this phenomenon can even ruin a good night out. Mark Corrigan on Peep Show once said, "All rational people agree it's a truth self-evident that it's impossible to have a good time on New Year's Eve. The pressure is too immense. The pressure to have a good time leads to a worse time, and you overreact to how bad that time is because the pressure to have a good time is so high, because you were so desperate to feel good and to enjoy yourself, because that's what you're supposed to do on New Year's." If you're interested in the ideas in this video, you're going to like the Blink Trying Not to Try by Edward Slingerland on Blinkist. Blinkist is the sponsor of today's video. It allows you to understand over 5,500 non-fiction books and podcasts in just 15 minutes. You can discover new ways of thinking, broaden your horizons, have better conversations, have better experiences because of what you learn from Blinkist. Plus, you can chuck on a Blink while you do other things. So while you're tidying the house, while you're going on a walk, chuck on a Blink. Educate and entertain yourself at the same time. So Trying Not to Try is a Blink that I listened to recently when I was researching for this video. And it's all about Wu Wei, which is the art of just letting things happen. Something that the author talks about that I found really interesting is how people who are in a state of Wu Wei tend to have Da, which is this idea of power, of charisma. And immediately when I read about it, I was like, yeah, I know people who have Da. These are people that are so naturally compelling because they are natural. They're showing up so authentically without trying. And it made me start to think about times in my life when I've had Da and what might have conspired in order to lead me to Da. This will make sense if you listen to the Blink. Blinkist has a new feature called Blinkist Connect, which allows you to share your premium subscription with someone else. So when you sign up, you get 2 accounts, no additional cost. That way you can share your recommended favorites. So I am going to share Trying Not to Try with my sister Amy because she is my other person. Get 25% off of Blinkist using my link down in the description below and enjoy 2 memberships for the price of 1. You can start your free trial by clicking that link in the description down below. Theory number 2, when you are desperate, you can't relax. When you can't relax, you overthink. When you overthink, you do worse. When I went for my driver's license, I was not relaxed. Before we drove out of the parking lot, the instructor asked me to turn on my blinkers as a safety check. I'd used my blinkers hundreds of times by this point, but when he asked me to turn on my blinkers, I couldn't find them. I turned on the windshield wipers, I turned on the water, I couldn't find my blinkers. I was stumped. My inability to relax led me to overthinking, which stopped me from performing well. And this happens with social anxiety as well. If you've ever seen a socially anxious person in their worst nightmare of an environment, they have what's called safety behaviors. So they might act really overconfident to cover up their nervousness. They might avoid eye contact. They could avoid speaking about themselves. And it's been shown in studies that when they engage in these safety behaviors, people don't don't like them as much because they're not acting naturally. They're not relaxed, they overthink it, they perform poorly. This happens when people overthink and choke in sports. It happens when you overthink a joke that you're telling. It happens when you overthink a story that you're telling. As soon as overthinking comes into the picture, things don't happen in a natural way and you perform worse. Another reason that this might happen is that your desperation blocks your subconscious from doing the work. Subconsciously, your brain is always solving problems for you. When the solution to your problem hits you mid-shower, that is your subconscious doing the work. When you have the best idea that you've ever had in your whole life on your walk, that is your subconscious doing the work. And really great problem solvers talk all the time about how you need to have a gentle patience with your subconscious to let it do the work for you. Desperate energy isn't gentle patience. It reminds me of that saying, a watched kettle never boils. Desperate energy is you just watching. Desperate energy might also give you tunnel vision. In one study on health-related behaviors, they found that when people were really focused in on specific goals, like losing weight or lowering their cholesterol, they over-focused on the goal itself and they didn't focus on any of the skills that they needed to build to reach that goal. So when you feel desperate for happiness, you're focusing on how happy you are. You're not focusing on drinking enough water, getting enough sleep. When you're desperate for a relationship, you're not focused on working on yourself or working through your attachment issues, meeting new people. You're focusing on your relationship status. To achieve just about anything, you need to put effort in, you need to try. But there's a big difference between desperate trying and not desperate trying. And a lot of it comes down to what you focus on. Imagine two successful, super talented writers working on books. One of them's writing a book with the intention of getting on the New York Times bestseller list. They're sitting down and focusing on writing good enough stuff for that bestseller list. The other author is focused on how cool their little world that they've created is. And when they're writing, they're enjoying the moment of living in this imaginary world that they've created. One of them is gonna perform better than the other, and the only reason that they'll perform better is because they focused on different things. So where can you focus your attention so that you don't have that desperate energy? Put your focus on a cause that is bigger than yourself. Viktor Frankl once said, "For success, like happiness, cannot be pursued, it must ensue, and it only does so as the unintended side effect of one's personal dedication to a cause greater than oneself. Happiness must happen, and the same holds for success. You have to let it happen." Instead of directly trying to pursue relationships, happiness, certain feelings, try pursuing these things indirectly by finding a cause that is greater than yourself and letting those things happen naturally. Number 2, focus on getting absorbed and having fun. This is also a paradox because when you focus on enjoyment and you try to enjoy things, it can go the other way. Instead, maybe just try to be aware of your enjoyment as you experience it. Let yourself enjoy rather than forcing yourself to enjoy. Focus on learning, not outcomes. In the field of learning, they've looked at what works better. A performance goal of I'll work out 5 times a week, or a learning goal of I'll discover how to consistently move my body. By far, learning goals tend to work better. A learning mindset leads to more motivation and more persistence. You stick at it more when you've got a learning goal in mind. Essentially, you want to place your focus pretty much anywhere except for how you are performing, whether you're performing well or whether you're performing poorly. In the Endgame of Tennis, most of the book is dedicated to convincing you not to place your attention on how you are performing. The author, a tennis coach, wants you to put your attention just about anywhere except for there. So place your attention on the ball. Place your awareness on your movements. Focus on role-playing a good tennis swing. He explicitly says, never assign judgment to what you're doing. The art of trying not to try, it's a weird one. And I don't think there are any clear instructions on how to do it. It's something that you need to experiment with and learn how to do on your own. But as it goes, the less you seem to care, the less you try, the more luck you tend to have. If you liked this video, you'll probably like my video on discipline doesn't work. Here's what to do instead. Thank you again to Blinkist for sponsoring this video. Check out their link in the description below. I'll have that video linked on the screen as well as down below. I appreciate you so much and I'll see you soon.